Okay, hello everyone. It's Katie here, and welcome to today's workshop, which is all about how to find actual, real paying students to sign up for your classes. This is session 1 of the Trial Class Bootcamp, and I'm so excited to have so many people joining us already. So, before we get started, do you want to just pop in the chat? Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Please tell me that the tech is all working fine and you can see and hear me okay, and then we'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. If you are watching the replay, feel free to zip ahead probably a minute or two while we do a quick warm up, get all the tech and everything working smoothly. So if you're watching the replay, you can jump ahead just a little bit, I'm sure. Let me just check. We have Teresa joining us on YouTube. Hi there, great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. And Melody, hi there, Melody. And Katie as well. Hi, Katie, great to see you again. Okay, good. Lots of people tuning in. Looks like the tech is all working smoothly, which is great to see. I'm just going to pull up my screen share. Make my face a bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so yes, welcome to today's session on finding actual paying students. Because if anyone here is teaching online, which I assume vast majority of people in the comments are, that's the main focus, you'll know how difficult it can be to find your own students for your own independent private online classes. There's a lot of people who are worried about free trial hoppers, parents who are just looking for free classes all the time, but trying to get one to actually pay can be a real challenge. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in this session, which is the very first session of the bootcamp. This is a 3-session bootcamp, and I'm going to show you in a few slides or so what the rest of the bootcamp is going to include, so you know what to get excited for. This bootcamp is totally free, so this is all for you to enjoy. There's no time limits or restrictions on things. You can come back and watch this again anytime. It's just here to help you start onboarding real paying students for your online classes. Now, if you haven't already, please do check out the link in the video description to register for the bootcamp. If you register, it means you're going to get email updates and reminders when we go live for the next couple of sessions that make up the bootcamp. And you'll also be sent a whole bunch of freebies, including free materials for your trial classes, free English level placement test, free Canva templates, lots of great stuff. So please make sure you've registered to get all those free things, because who doesn't love a good freebie? So the link for that is in the video description. Okay, just as a quick intro for anyone who's new here, hi, my name is Katie. Most people know me as the director of Abridge Academy. I am a qualified classroom teacher from the UK, and I've been teaching online actually since 2013, on and off, bit of private tutoring, bit of teaching here and there, and then of course when COVID hit, a lot of us then went full-time, and that became my main focus for a while. I've also taught in the UK, China, and Japan before, like in school classrooms there. And I co-founded an online ESL startup program back in 2020. So I had some experience as well with scaling up beyond just independent teaching too. So hopefully that's given me a bit of an insight into the industry and lots of top tips and strategies and things that I can share with you all today. So yeah, do let me know in the chat who you are. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what you're excited to learn about. And I also have another quick question to ask. This kind of warms us up for today's topic, which is about trial classes. Have a think about the trial classes you've taught previously, if you've been teaching online for a while, and tell me in the chat how your trial classes are going at the moment. Like, are you getting lots of trials, not enough trials? Are you getting lots of trials and they're not converting? Let me know in the chat how your trial classes are going, what your conversion rates are like, if you've kind of kept track of those sort of metrics. Always great to hear where we're starting from. And while you have a think about that, I'm going to pop across the chat and see who's joining us. We've got Melody from Wisconsin in the USA. Fantastic. Michelle, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And Sujata from Malaysia. Awesome. Fantastic. And Mandy also from the USA. Amazing. Tanya from London. Great. Another fellow British teacher. Great to see someone else from this part of the world. Fantastic. And Ivy tuning in too. Thanks for joining us. And Emma's saying, just realized I wasn't subscribed to Abridge Academy. What? I know, crazy. You better sign up quick. So I'll be talking a bit more about Abridge Academy later on in today's workshop. But yes, please do check out Abridge Academy if you haven't already. And I do hope you find those lessons helpful. Sharon joining us. Amazing. And Elisa from the USA. Lots of teachers from America tuning in. That's fantastic to see. Okay, Katie's saying, haven't had many trial classes lately. No worries. Hopefully this will give you some tips on maybe how to get a few more trials if you're looking for new students. Hopefully this will give you a few insights and suggestions there. Sharon saying, still teaching with a company but want to go out on my own. Fantastic. Well, you're in the right place because this is all about getting those first few students, converting them into actual paying students, and going independent, finding your own private students. Barry from Brazil. Arnold from South Africa. Fantastic. Sharon, USA. So many people tuning in. Richard from Yorkshire. Amazing. Another British teacher. Great to see you. Awesome. Okay, there's too many comments going on right now, so I'm not going to be able to get to everyone, but thank you so much for tuning in today, and I do hope you find this bootcamp session, this whole bootcamp, and also today's session particularly helpful for boosting those trial class conversion rates. Okay, I'm going to do a little quick answer of my own question so you can get a bit of an idea of where I've been coming from with my own teaching. So where did I put my face? Out the way, over here. There we go. Nice. So I started out teaching online way back, but the first time I really committed like lots of time and work to teaching online was not independently at first. It was with a company called Powfish. Let me know in the chat if you had the joys of teaching for Powfish. They were one of those online Chinese companies, and I enjoyed many aspects of teaching with them, but things have moved on. Anyway, when I taught with Powfish, my trial class conversion rates were an incredible 12%. I don't know how this compares to some of you guys, but 12% was not quite the kind of rate that I was hoping to achieve when I was going independent. Because if you can imagine, only 1 in 10 of your trial classes converting, and Powfish was doing free trial classes. Can you imagine teaching 10 trial classes for free? That's at least half an hour per class, plus a bunch of work messaging back and forth, so probably an hour or so worth of time per class, 10 hours of work for free to get 1 student? Definitely not ideal, right? So that's definitely not what I wanted to continue going forward. Luckily, I massively improved in terms of how I've approached trial classes and very much changed the strategy that I take compared to the default that a lot of these online companies were using. And as an independent teacher, my trial class rates have reached up to 96%, which is a considerable improvement over 12. So it's very nice now feeling confident that I can go into my trial classes with a student and be confident that highly likely they are going to convert into a paying student, which is a nice position to be in. Obviously, it wasn't like that straight away. My first few trial classes that I taught independently, some converted, some didn't. I was still learning. But this session today will teach you all of those tips and tricks that I learned to massively increase my trial class conversion rates. Okay, let me move on because I'm rambling. As I mentioned earlier, this is session 1 of the free trial class bootcamp. So there's 3 sessions in this bootcamp. If you haven't already, I know I've said it before, but do make sure you click on the link in the description of the video to register for all 3 sessions of the bootcamp. It means you'll get access to the replays forever. You'll get a whole bunch of free stuff. I'm going to show you on the next slide some of the cool free things you get. And you get email reminders when we go live for these 3 sessions. This is the first session, which is all about finding the right students. So none of those free trial hoppers, people just wanting your time for free, how to get actual paying students who are going to sign up for your classes and are serious about, taking classes with you. The second session, which will be on Wednesday, same time, but on Wednesday, is about trial classes that sell. We'll talk a bit more about this as we go through the bootcamp, but our goal as a teacher is obviously to teach. We're used to thinking of ourselves as teachers. But when it comes to being an independent business owner, you need to be thinking of your trial classes not just as an opportunity to teach and show off your amazing teaching skills, but also to sell. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot more in the next session on Wednesday. Then session 3 on Friday, again, same time, same place, but on Friday, will be on follow-ups for success. So what you should do after the trial class in order to make sure that that trial class student you spent so much time and effort teaching an incredible class to doesn't just disappear into the ether and not ever buy classes from you. So do make sure to sign up at the link below to register to get access to all 3 sessions of this bootcamp, all of the amazing freebies and all of that. Speaking of incredible freebies, I have put together a whole package of free things, all about trial classes to help you teach the very best trial classes you can. So I'm going to run through these very quickly. As I said, the link is in the description. We talk a bit more about why these are important as we go through the bootcamp, but I'm just mentioning it now to make sure that you guys don't miss out before we jump into everything. So the first free thing I have put together for you all is a free placement test. This is something very important to do at the beginning of your trial classes, and it's going to help you assess the level of your students, easily match them up to the level in the Age Academy curriculum if you're teaching with the curriculum. It'll also tell you the CEFR level, so that's a common European framework of reference for languages, what level that they're at, and also what Cambridge exams they may wish to be preparing for if they're interested in exam prep. So it's quite a flexible and very interactive and super engaging free placement test that you can register for and get access to. Hope you enjoy using that with your students. The next amazing free thing is built-in certificates. So there's, actually I probably should mention the other one first. Let's go to the trial classes first. I've also put together 5 incredible free trial class, like full sets of slides for your trial classes. This is an example for level 5, which is all about animal adaptations. So these are super interactive, super engaging, and designed to convert. So they'll be specifically designed with trial classes in mind to help you teach the very best trial classes you can. And there's 5 of those. They're completely free. Check them out. Link is in the description, as I've mentioned already. At the end of those trial classes, they also get free certificates. These are automatically generated. My students love these, and they're a great way, kind of, when it links to the follow-ups that we're talking in session 3 of the bootcamp, these are a great way to sort of celebrate your students' achievements and encourage the parents to sign up for more classes with you going forward. And the final thing, again, totally for free, are these free trial class feedback templates and learning plan templates. So these are like Canva templates. They're free. You don't need a pro Canva account. They work on the free account. And you can fill it out with some information. It puts together a really detailed, super helpful for parents guide about how their kid did in the trial class and your plan for their learning going forward, which is super, super important, as we'll talk about in session 3 of the bootcamp for actually converting them as part of your follow-ups after the trial class. Okay, enough promo. Hopefully went through that quick enough. But yeah, do check that out. Loads of freebies, totally free. Do check them out if you think you'll find those helpful. Okay, so I want to come back to what I was talking about earlier about me teaching with Powerfish with my horrendous 12% conversion rate. And I can see some more comments in the chat as well on similar lines, which is interesting to see. I want to have a think about this idea then. These are big online ESL companies, right? These are huge international companies, some of these. Why were they so bad at converting trial classes? Because you would have thought that given they've invested a hell of a lot of money in developing their curriculum, in developing their teaching strategies, in developing and hiring the best teachers, surely their conversion rates should be right at the top. So why are they so bad? Aren't they the experts in this? Have a think about that. Let me know in the chat what you're thinking, because I think it's really important to remember that as independent teachers, we are totally different to these companies, and this is one of the ways in which we need to differentiate ourselves. A few more people tuning in, which is fantastic. Okay, I see Tanya's commenting, Magic Ears and Wales were the same. Needed tons of energy teaching very young learners. Yeah, I feel like, personally, I don't teach the really young kids. I don't teach anyone under the age of 6 because I don't have the energy. Maybe I'm getting old, but I don't have the energy for teaching the really, really little ones. I know some people love it, but I found with Powerfish was, yeah, super, super energetic kind of classes that you had to teach, which suits some teachers, not so much others. Emma's saying, that's my issue. Some have disappeared. I'm assuming that's talking about like the students ghosting you after trial classes. This is a really big challenge. And when I first started out teaching independently, I found this as well. Like sometimes they would sign up for the trial class. I thought the class was amazing. And then after the class, I would message be like, hey, do you want classes? Hello? Classes? Would you like classes? Any interesting classes? Have I got the right number? Like, gone. Magically vanished. And obviously we don't want to have that because that's a complete waste of all your hard work going into it. So yeah, hopefully we can help resolve that. Alison saying, feedback templates already created. Woohoo, parents will love these. Thank you. Yes, I've had some great feedback already actually from the trial classes I've done since with those templates that I've used. And one of the parents replied being like, oh wow, this is really detailed. Thank you so much for putting this all together. I can really see that you totally understood my child and like what they need help with going forward in their classes. And I was like, yes, this only took me 2 minutes to do because I had this pre-made template, but glad it helped, and it really helped convert that student, so it works. LED saying, cost, it's free. This bootcamp is free. There's no VIP upsell version. The freebies are free. So the free trial class materials, the free placement test, the free templates, it's all free. Just check out the link in the description to sign up. Little disclaimer, it does add you to my email list, so I might then advertise other stuff later on, like the Age Academy curriculum, which is awesome and also very cheap. But yeah, this is available for free, and you're welcome to take as much as you can from this totally for free with no commitments, no payments or anything required. Emma's saying, I'm assuming it's about the ESL companies, not my amazing freebies. Emma's saying, I think the ESL companies were so bad because some of the material was terrible and they don't have enough vetting. That is a very good point. And actually, I'm going to move on from this topic now because it's going to lead directly into what I wanted to talk about today, which is this idea of vetting the people who are signing up for your trial classes. I do not accept every student who reaches out to me about trial classes. I get multiple messages every day from parents like, do you have classes? What are your prices? Do you teach this curriculum? All these kind of messages. And sometimes the minute I hear some of those messages, I'm like, red flag. This is not going to be a serious student. And I either totally ignore it, I'm going to be honest, or if it's someone who might be interested, I'll ask a few questions. We'll talk more about those kind of questions later on. But it's so, so important to vet the people who are reaching out to you before you start offering any kind of trial class, particularly if you're doing free trials. I know there's mixed opinions on free trials. I'm going to talk a bit more later as well about alternatives to free trials and how you can make sure you're using your time more efficiently, and different approaches you can take. But yes, vetting parents is super, super important. Okay. So this is my list of why I think some of these ESL companies are so shockingly bad at converting trials. Firstly, for them, the free trial is not such a big deal. Most of these companies are doing free trials. For them, they're thinking about the overall scale. So when they look at a lead, they're seeing they're just numbers, okay? These people are just numbers to them. Teachers are just numbers to them. Students are just numbers to them. When you scale up to a certain point, the numbers still add up okay if only 10% of those students convert. Because, okay, you've taught 10 hours, maybe 10 half-hour classes, like maybe 5 hours worth of paid teacher time that they've had to kind of budget for, but that's brought them one paid student who's then stuck with them for, they look at their numbers, maybe they stick with them for a year or 2 years or 5 years, and they know therefore the lifetime value on average of their students, and therefore they've done the maths and concluded that that trial class rate is acceptable for them. When you're independent teachers, though, you don't necessarily have that data, and also you're not looking to necessarily scale up in the same way as these companies. You're a bit more of a bespoke kind of service, and yes, there will be long-term returns, but we also need short-term returns as well, right? We don't want to be wasting our time on things that don't work. Another thing these ESL companies do, and that links in with this idea of scaling, is they're using these very impersonal automated systems. That's great for scaling, but it does mean that those parents reaching out, they've got less of that personal connection. There's no one really messaging them directly, encouraging them to sign up. There's no sort of personal assistant who's there, giving them all this support and advice and feedback, and not quite guilt tripping, that's not the word I mean, but they're not like building that relationship with the parents before they purchase. So it's so easy for the parent just to take a free trial and then disappear, and no one really cares. They haven't hurt anyone. It's just an automated computer. Another thing they do, and again, this links to what Emma was saying about vetting parents, or vetting students rather, they allow almost anyone to sign up for a free trial. Most of them even directly advertise free trials. If you go to their website, they'll say on it, free trial, click here to get now. And we don't want to be doing that as independent teachers. I'll be talking a bit more about that later. But because they're directly advertising free trials, they're attracting people who want the free stuff. And finally, they don't teach teachers how to sell. They rely on themselves to do the sales bit. And the teachers who work for online ESL companies, they just want them to teach, to follow the script, teach the lesson plan as it's provided on the screen, and then that's it. After the trial class, there's not usually any requirement for the teachers to get that involved in the actual sales process, because they have their own team that deal with that. So that's why I've noticed that the online ESL companies tend to have very low conversion rates. But coming back to you as an independent teacher, our goal is a little bit different. And I want you to think about the purpose of these trials. These purpose of these trials are not to teach. I mean, they are to teach, okay? We don't want to not teach anything at all. We've got to show off your teaching skills. But ultimately, you're showing off your teaching skills in order to sell. And our ultimate goal is about promoting your classes. I know we hate talking about sales. We hate talking about business. We hate talking about making money because we are teachers. And I think anyone here who went into teaching and into education industry, who went into some money, probably in the wrong place. Most people went into teaching because they're passionate about education. They're passionate about helping students. And yes, they do need to earn enough to pay the bills, but we love to help our students. That's our goal. But as an independent teacher, you are a business owner. You need to start thinking sales. Another thing that's really important to do in trial classes is to assess your students' level and put together a plan for your future classes. So even if you're doing paid trial classes, so you've already had to kind of sell before the trial class itself, you're still going to have this first session with a student that you're going to be putting together your plan for longer term classes. Because no matter how much you measure them beforehand, no matter how many tests or things you ask them to do in their own time before your first class, you can never really be confident of their exact level until you've met them, until you've done that kind of placement test or first class with them and actually had that conversation and seen them in practice. And finally, another thing that's so important with trial classes is an opportunity for you to vet the student and check there's someone you can help and want to work with. I've had parents before, they've taken a trial class and the kid has just been a nightmare to deal with, or the parent has been a nightmare to deal with. And I thought at the end of the trial class, you know what? This is not a client I need in my life. And I might turn around to them and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm a good fit. Obviously, you're not going to tell them I think you're terrible. That's a rude thing to say. But you're going to turn around to them and say, I don't think I'm a good fit for your child. I'm really sorry. I'm not sure I can help with the specific thing they need some assistance with. I'm not the best teacher for them. I suggest you look elsewhere. So it's an opportunity for you to kind of do that trial of them as much as they're trying out you. Okay, sorry. I know I'm talking very quickly here, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into where we're starting from and what our goal is with these trial classes. Let's have a look quickly in the comments. Emma's saying, yes, we're only ever numbers with those companies. Absolutely. We mean nothing to them. Yeah. And, we can teach the very best classes, but when you're teaching for yourself, that is, I think, a lot more of a kind of more powerful position and an opportunity to really get to know your students and not just be a number, a cog in someone else's wheel, Point two plays a big role, absolutely. And that's also important for the sales process. I know we keep going back to sales, but kind of link things in there. It is very, very important. Alison saying, when I taught with VIP kid, I hated trial classes. Me too. They used to terrify me. I used to be so scared going into a trial class because, like with Powerfish, when I taught with them before, because I was like, this affects my conversion rate. They track the conversion rates. And if you don't get a good enough conversion rate, then you might not get any more students. And the pay is a little bit lower. You get bonuses if you convert the student, but otherwise your pay is a bit rubbish. So they terrified me. Alison saying, it didn't affect my pay enough to motivate me to try too hard to convert. Yeah. Some companies did give financial incentives to try and help with that, but yeah, exactly. Great. Okay, so that's where we're starting from then. So we're thinking about trial classes more in terms of sales and in terms of vetting the student rather than just teaching. Another big question for you guys. I know I'm bombarding you with questions, but I think this is a big one. Should you charge for your trial classes? This is going to be the first kind of big learning point that we're going to take away from today's session. Should you be charging? And if you are charging, what's your strategy in terms of fees? Do you charge a certain percentage? Are you charging a full price? What do you do in terms of the cost of your classes? I'm intrigued to hear what people are doing with this. Because I know there's several different options. I'm going to talk more about the different strategies in a moment. While you do that, I'm going to grab a quick drink of water because my throat is dying here. Okay, so let me know in the chat. Should you charge for trial classes or do you currently charge or not? Melody saying, yes, you should charge. Okay, great. Love that idea. Yes, you should charge. Emma's saying, yes, I charge half price. And that's quite a good strategy, actually, doing a discounted trial class. You're going to get rid of the complete freeloaders because they're not even going to want to pay half the price. But it's still a little bit more affordable and a little bit of incentive for people to try out your classes before they kind of commit to longer term classes with you. And he's saying a discounted price unless the parent was referred by a friend. And that's another one. I'm going to talk a bit about the importance of where your students are coming from. Okay, depending on where those leaders come from, if they're a referral, probably a bit more confident they're going to convert. So maybe then offering a free trial is okay. But if it's someone who's come from social media, you might want to do a discounted trial instead. I don't charge, but maybe I should. Yeah, have a think about it. We'll talk a little bit more about the pros and cons. It depends also what stage you're at in your business. I don't like to say never teach free trials because I'll be honest with you, I've taught free trials before. I still quite often teach free trials. I think it's something that can work depending what stage you're at in your business and how you're attracting your students. Alison saying half price for a trial, but trying to avoid them in a pre-meeting. Yes, that's another idea, a great one, a pre-meeting rather than the trial session. Free for referral is 50% for a trial. Love that idea, Katie. Fantastic. Different teams, half price. Awesome. Teacher Mama, I did one trial class and didn't charge. No worries. Everyone starts out somewhere, but we'll have to talk about different approaches you can take and that might help with things going forward. Right, so let's compare free trials versus paid trials. Firstly, free trials. As I said, there is a place for these and there's a reason those big companies do them. There's a low barrier to entry. They don't have to faff around trying to find their credit card. They don't have to try and fill out some kind of registration form or anything, like fill out their details in order to purchase the class. Right, very easy for them to book classes with you, right? Book the trial class, no effort whatsoever. It attracts new students and in itself can be appealing. But a big risk of the free trials are the free trial hoppers. Okay, people who are coming along because they want the free class and they have no intention of ever purchasing. And it therefore attracts sometimes less committed or interesting students. Interested? Interested, not interesting. I'm sure all students are interesting. Less interested students. Then we look at paid trial classes. Paid trial classes, you can be pretty confident that everyone who's actually paying is genuinely interested in classes with you. You're going to earn some money out of it, which is a nice thing to have. I know some people are talking about discounted classes, things like that, but you're getting some money, so that's a nice thing. It also means you can test out your payment process. Depending on where your students are coming from, if they're in a different country to you, or if they're in a country where the payment process is a lot more complicated, you might yourself not be that confident you can actually take payments from that country. Okay, there are some countries that you cannot accept payments from. Like, for example, I live in the UK. At the moment, the UK has sanctioned Russia because of the ongoing war and that kind of thing. So I have no way of accepting money from students in Russia, regardless of whether or not I wanted to teach them. So, and there's several other countries that also have, these kind of issues. So by charging for the trial class, you can make sure that the parent does have a way of paying, and that you're, teaching students who you're allowed to charge and sell things to. I know also in other countries, even when it is okay to do paid classes, that kind of thing, sometimes just they have different payment methods. Like, I have a lot of Chinese students, and in China, the main payment methods are WeChat Pay and Alipay. Yes, they do have card payments, but it's not that popular. So by doing a paid trial, you're checking that they are confident with making the payment process, your systems are all working. But a big disadvantage of paid trials is that, of course, it can put off many potential students who could be legit paying students going forward in the future. I'm going to give you my opinion on this. I think if you are just starting out, so you are brand new to independent teaching and you haven't got any students yet and your schedule is pretty empty, there's not an awful lot lost if you do some free trials, particularly if they've come from, say, a referral or somewhere you'll feel relatively confident they're going to sign up. And we're going to talk more about other things you can do before your trial class to be a bit more confident as well. If, however, you've got pretty fully packed schedule and you can be a lot more selective about who you're offering trials to, because you don't have the time to offer loads of trials, okay? So you've only got a few hours a week that you can do them to accept your last few students, then charge. And I think it's very much a decision you have to kind of weigh up and think about what stage you're at in your business. Also, it's worth sort of looking at your data and your statistics. If you're doing loads of free trials and none of them are converting, try and figure out why and consider a different approach. And as we kind of hinted at already in the chat, I can see these are not the only two options. So you may be thinking, well, I don't want to do free stuff, but I'm not quite at the point where I feel confident charging the full price because I charge a lot for my classes. Maybe I'm not that confident with that. Also, the alternative options. And there are, of course, if I move to the next, oh wait, I had another slide in the meantime. There are, of course, a few other options that I'll tell you about in a minute. I want to give you a quick comparison of some companies, though, because this is where I could get some actual data. Most companies don't publish their rates officially. So this is data I've kind of scraped from looking a lot on Reddit. So not the most reliable statistics, but it gives you a rough idea of what kind of conversion rates you might get for the simple free versus paid options. So as I mentioned, when I taught with Powerfish, my conversion rate was 12%. I thought that was pretty terrible. However, if you actually look at the average conversion rate for Powerfish teachers, according to what you can see on the top bit of their leaderboard and what people talk about online, as I say, not the most reliable sources of data, sorry, it's somewhere between 10 and 16%, which is still pretty shockingly bad, okay? So at least I feel quite so awful about my 12% having seen that numbers. Then if we have a look at Preply, I don't know if anyone here teaches with Preply. They're not really a company, they're more of a marketplace. But on Preply, the students pay for the trial class. As a teacher, you don't get paid, but the students are paying. So from the point of view of comparing, how well they convert, it's relevant to consider. So with Preply, their trial class conversion rates are somewhere between 60 to 80%. Again, numbers I've kind of dug off of Reddit, not the most reliable. But you can see here at least that going from free trials to paid trials can significantly increase your conversion rate because you're just getting rid of the ones who aren't legitimately interested in classes. So yeah, worth having a think about. And I did mention, and I'm going to get to chat in a minute, don't worry. I did mention there are lots of alternative options if you don't want to offer completely free classes or you don't want to do completely full price paid classes. Here are some alternatives. One option could be to do discounted paid trials. Again, I saw quite a few people mention this in the chat already, like a 50% off your first class, or even if it's just a really nominal amount, like only $5 for your first class. That still has the effect of eliminating complete free trial hoppers, checking out your payment processes, all that kind of thing. And it's, it's the cost of a cup of coffee. So even if it's a very, very cheap discounted paid trial, the fact that it's paid is going to put off a lot of those free trial hoppers. Another one, I think it was Alison who mentioned this earlier. doing an initial meeting, or sometimes referred to as a strategy call, rather than a trial class at all. And actually, when I first started out doing private tutoring, and this was actually in person before I was doing online classes, when I first did on in-person tutoring, I used to have an initial meeting with the parents, and the child was often there as well, but we'd have a meeting with the parents, like in a coffee shop, no teaching whatsoever. I just have a chat with them. And we'd ask, what's your child wanting to work towards? What are their goals? What are you looking for in terms of classes? That kind of thing. And we'd have a bit of a chit chat. It was friendly. It was an opportunity to, properly understand their student and what they're really looking for, and also give them their sales pitch. That I notice is quite popular with online teachers when it comes to like business English. If you're teaching ESL online, I see it less with people who are teaching younger kids, but there's no reason you can't consider this. Third option I've got here is if you're teaching group classes. Let's imagine you've got a group class. It meets every Monday at 5 o'clock, and you're teaching like debating with the Age Academy curriculum. Great debating course available there. And you've got a student who's interested in debating classes. You don't need to give them a separate free trial class. Just tell them, come along next Monday at 5 o'clock. I'm doing a group class anyway. You can join in that one for free. That means for you as a teacher, it's not any extra effort for you. You're not teaching an extra class. It's a group class you're running anyway. It's an opportunity for them to actually try out the group class environment, make sure they gel with the other students in the class. And you can still do a lot of the advantages of a paid class, but without that barrier to entry. So that's kind of one option to consider if you're a group class kind of teacher. Another one which can work very well is doing group classes as like a special event. So even if you don't do group classes normally, or if you are but they're full, so you can't really squeeze extra students in for trials, you could just run a special event like, oh, next weekend I'm going to run a what's coming up? What's the next big event? Halloween might be the next thing that's coming up. Let's say Halloween is coming up. I'm going to run a special themed group class all about Halloween. We're going to read a great Halloween themed story, and there's going to be some quizzes. And you can invite people along from your leads, like invite the ones who seem relatively legit, to come along and join this free event that you're running. It's only maybe 1 hour of your time, and you could have 5, 10 students, even more if you've got a lot of leads and you want to do more webinar style, and they can all come along to one session. And that's also a great opportunity to have a really kind of well-presented sales pitch at the end of that group. And the final option is some kind of live stream or recorded kind of class. This is something I'm going to be honest, the other ones I've tried. The last one is one I haven't really done much myself, tried out properly. I've done 1 or 2 similar ones to this, like live stream kind of workshops or webinars, but not quite what you might call a demo class. But I have seen some teachers doing this, and basically it's where you go on a platform like YouTube, where we are right now, and on YouTube you can load up your lesson slides and you can say, okay, today we're going to learn blah blah blah, and you can do it as a live stream class. Invite all of your leads to tune in. They can all message in the chat just like you guys are doing right now. They can see a bit about your teaching style. Depending on what you're using for your kind of live streaming software, you might be able to invite some individual students to join in as actual live with their videos on or not. There's different ways of doing it. But that can be a great way to teach loads and loads of people all in one go for just like 1 hour of your time. So I hope that gives you a few ideas of different approaches to trials. I'm just keeping on the time. I know we're only on to the first main point of today's session. We're already halfway through the time. So there's lots to get through today. I'm going to have a quick look in the chat and see what everyone's saying here about how they do their trial classes. Tanya's saying adults, 15 to 20 minute free phone call to discuss. Yeah, absolutely. That's this idea of a free meeting or a strategy call. Love it. We've got a few people tuning in a bit late. No worries. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Awesome. Julian's saying free group classes are special events. Absolutely. Fantastic way of doing things. I love it. Strategy calls work well if you're just starting off, plus they work well for market research. Yes, and that's a really good point about market research. Today's more about the trial classes, that kind of thing, but if you're just starting out, market research, super, super important. Talk to your customers or your potential customers. Talk to your audience, understand what they need. And that strategy call is a fantastic way to do that. Katie's saying, I'm thinking about using the free Age Academy trial classes for free group classes. Fantastic. Do check those out. If anyone wants to get those free trial class materials, they are linked in the description and they're free. So you're welcome to use them for all of these kinds of trial classes that you might be teaching. Fantastic. Okay, moving swiftly on. I'm going to try and slow down a bit. I feel like I talk at 100 miles an hour when I get excited. Okay, we have mentioned a little bit, I think, was it Tanya who commented this earlier as well? Someone commented about depends where they're coming from. Oh, Katie was saying about free for referrals, 50% otherwise. Where do your leads come from? Because this does have a big impact on how you might want to run your trial classes, whether you charge or not, and how much you might charge, and what your strategy might be. And I know there's some people tuning in who don't have many leads coming in yet, and that's totally fine. Today, this kind of section of this session will be particularly helpful if you are just starting out and figuring out where you can possibly find students from in the first place. Where do your leads come from, and how does that affect how you might be doing your trials? Can you see, does Abridge Academy have a Halloween lesson? Yes, there are Halloween lessons with Abridge Academy. I'm pretty sure at least one of them is in the free tier. So the free one, if you get the free trial classes, it also includes a bunch of other free lessons, including, I'm 95% sure, a Halloween lesson as well. I think there's 2 or 3 different Halloween lessons from what I remember. I will have to check. It's been nearly a year since I looked at them. But yes, there are free Halloween lessons, so you're welcome to check those out. Best tip ever. Trial classes should not be about teaching, but selling yourself. Thank you, Ivy. Yes, I love it. People tuning in late, no worries. Great to see you, Angel. Okay, Ivy's saying current and past students. Yeah, so referrals. That's a really great source of leads. If you've already got some students, or even if you're just loosely connected to people you've taught with previously with a company or something, a lot of teachers got started through referrals and getting your students that way. We actually did a referral marketing bootcamp 4 or 5 months ago now. It was a while ago. I did a referral marketing bootcamp where I taught you guys all about how to be successful with referrals, even if you don't have any current students at all yet. And in fact, my very first student came from a referral. So you can definitely, absolutely find people through your existing network, whether that's current students or other people you know who may have useful connections. Tanya's saying Xiaohongshu and word of mouth, fantastic. So yes, social media marketing and then the idea of word of mouth or referrals. 2 very different sources of leads and different approaches you might want to take on trial classes depending on where they're from. Word of mouth, fantastic. For some reason I can't click on this. There we go. Tanya's saying previous students. Great. Okay, so several different places you might be finding students from. And as I kind of hinted at, it does very much affect their impact in terms of their impact. Their words today. I can speak, honest. I've been doing too much talking. Okay. The source of your lead very much impacts whether they are likely to buy, at least at the first time of reaching out. So let's start off by talking about referrals, because this is one I think probably the most spoken about in the chat at the moment, referrals. So referrals are basically your current students, your personal network, word of mouth, even community groups. So let's say you're in a Facebook group and like a Facebook group for, I don't know, language learners in your local area, and you put a message up there and someone's reached out and recommended you perhaps, or you've been engaging with people in that community. I kind of consider these all broadly under the umbrella of sort of referrals or your network somehow bringing people to you. People who come through referrals, as someone earlier mentioned, are very likely, like much more likely to sign up because they are a bit more committed. Yeah, Alison's saying here, agree with you about referral, giving a free one because they're more committed. So if you're finding students primarily through a referral, or you could offer this as a special incentive just for people who have been referred to you, a free trial class could still be quite effective in that case. Not always, and there's definitely no harm in trying other options, but that is something that might affect what kind of class you might want to offer. Our next source of leads here is social media. And I see Emma's commenting here, Facebook and SuperProf. Yeah, it's a kind of marketplace platform. Fantastic. And Tanya was saying earlier about Xiaohongshu. So social media platforms like Xiaohongshu, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, these kind of mass social, what's the word? Reach large people, viral kind of channels where you can reach lots and lots of people with relatively small amount of individual attention to each person, right? So on social media, you can reach loads of people, which is great, but they're not going to know you personally. And it's very difficult to vet people directly just through their connection on social media. You only want to do a bit more messaging. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So leads who've come through social media, in my experience, tend to be a bit less committed. Okay, I don't think I've ever had a referral not convert, but I have had people from social media not convert because maybe they weren't deliberately being a free trial hopper, but they weren't that interested. They didn't know me that well. It's a little bit more difficult. So with referrals coming from social media, that's where you might want to be a bit more careful in terms of vetting those leads and in terms of considering charging for your trial classes or other strategies to prevent the free trial hoppers. And the final method I've got up here are adverts. I think Emma mentioned SuperProf, and I'd consider that in this kind of category. So if you put out direct flyers or you've listed yourself on a directory site or some marketplace site, if you're doing classified adverts, Google business profiles, any kind of advert where people have got to be directly looking for a tutor in order to find you, they are probably a bit more interested because they've directly searched for tutors. They've directly gone onto, Emma's mentioned SuperProf, for example. They've directly gone onto SuperProf to search for a teacher in that specific subject. They've looked at the different teachers who are available. They've looked at your profile. They like you. They've reached out and they've asked for a trial class. So they are pretty interested in classes. They're not just casual browsing people. Again, it depends how you have done these advertising though. Like a flyer, depending where you put that flyer, could be reaching more of a general audience or it could be quite targeted. So you do have to think a bit about that. Okay, I feel like I'm rambling here, but it gives you a few ideas of different places you can find students and things you might want to think about in terms of how you might vet leads coming from different sources. Okay. So last, the big thing I want to talk about is what to do before you offer a trial, whether that's free or paid. What do you do when someone first reaches out and they've sent you a message, hey, I'm interested in classes? What do you do? Do you reach out immediately saying, oh yes, here's my calendar, book a free class now? Or do you want to do something else first? Before you offer the trial class, what are you going to do? Gillian saying, you're not rambling, all good info. Thank you, Gillian. Appreciate it. I feel like I sometimes have the habit of either talking at 100 miles an hour, which I probably am at the moment. I need to slow down. I think I need to put a sticky note on my computer just saying, slow down when it comes to these things. Or I talk too much, but hopefully this is all helpful stuff. There's a lot to get through today, so yes, I get excited. What do you do though before you offer a trial class? Or what do you think you should be doing if you're not doing this already? Whether it's free or paid, what should you do first? I'm going to tell you something you shouldn't do. You certainly shouldn't publicly advertise free trials. That'd be my suggestion. If you're an independent teacher, I said it's a little bit different with those big companies, the way they do things. As an independent teacher, I would not personally recommend putting up a big advert, free trial, click here, because that's going to attract the very freeloading kind of types. Definitely going to attract the wrong kind of people. So what should we do instead? Gillian saying, no, I collect info, absolutely. Find out what their goals are. Emma's saying, find out more about them, definitely. Melody, I asked them about the student. Yes, we need to know who you're teaching, right? You can't have someone sign up for a free trial if you don't even know the student's name. You don't even know how old they are. You don't know what they want to study. You don't know if they're looking for IELTS preparation or beginner's phonics. How are you going to plan a trial class if you haven't got a clue what they want? They might not even be interested in what you have to offer. For example, I don't teach IELTS. I've never taken the IELTS exam myself. I've never prepared students for the IELTS exam before. I've never examined for it. So I would not feel confident teaching IELTS exam preparation classes. I've had people reach out to me saying, hi, Katie, I want classes. And I've replied back and said, oh, what kind of classes? Oh, I want to prepare for the IELTS exam. Even though I've not advertised anywhere that I'm offering IELTS classes, because I don't, but they have still reached out and asked for them. So if I hadn't asked, they would have popped up in a trial class and be like, yeah, I want to know about IELTS exam. And I would have sat there looking like an idiot. So definitely ask them about the student before you start. Katie's saying, get background information, find out learning goals. Definitely. Tanya's same kind of thing here. Informal chat to discuss learning goals. Alison's asking about the student's age, level, goals, curriculum, etc. Curriculum is an interesting one. Talk a bit about red flags a bit later. But yeah, you want to ask them what curriculum they're following in school for sure. Like I asked them, are they in a public school or a private school? What textbook series they're using. Not because I'm interested specifically in following the same curriculum, because it gives me an insight into what level they're at. If I can see, okay, they're following this particular curriculum, this is what they're working towards, that's what it kind of links in with. And you say, first question, tell me about the student. Yeah, keep it open-ended. Tell me more. What do you want? What's your kid learning? That kind of thing. What are you looking to improve? In the Chinese market, I specifically asked reading, writing, speaking. Yes, particularly there's a language barrier. It does help to clarify when you say, what are you looking to improve? Because they're going to reply back, I want to improve my English. Great, I knew that. What English? What specific skills? What specific aspects are you struggling with? That's what you want to know. I think formal chats are good, but sometimes I find language barriers difficult. Yeah, I actually do a lot of this with messaging. So with students who I know there's a bit of a language barrier, this is why I'm saying message beforehand with them. We talked a bit about the idea of a strategy call or a kind of free meeting of some kind. I think that can be really effective, particularly with students who've got the ability to communicate with you more easily. But the challenge with it can be the language barrier. So in that case, if you're worried about the language barrier, you want to just do that same kind of questioning, and we'll talk more about the specific questions in a moment, but through messaging beforehand instead. What experience you have learning English? Yes, you want to know where they're starting from and how they found it so far, what you liked or disliked. Exactly. If they've had classes before with a teacher, well, why do they want classes with you? What's wrong with their current teacher? And not necessarily because we want to criticize another teacher, but so we can understand what they, what they're looking for that's different. Definitely important to know. Okay, thank you so much for these amazing ideas. I love all of it. Fantastic. So I know I've kind of said this already. I've kind of very much been building up to this, but do not offer trial classes straight away. Big warning sign here. If someone reaches out to you and the first thing they ask, by the way, is, can I have a trial class? My answer is no. Goodbye. Like, do not jump straight to offering a trial class. I message back and forth at least 5 or 6 messages before I even mention about trial classes or classes at all. And for me, it's quite a big red flag if they're immediately asking for trial classes or freebies before they've even told me like what they want to learn. Key things you want to check that lead is genuinely likely to become a paying student. And it's also an opportunity to build some rapport and get useful info so you know what to teach in the trial class. So you know what kind of sales messaging approaches to use, right? If they said they want to prepare for a specific exam, then when you put together your like post-trial class feedback and your suggestions of what to learn going forward, you can say, because you mentioned that your exam is in 3 months' time, we are going to focus on these things, and this is how often I recommend you take classes, blah, 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 in order to pass your exam in 3 months' time. So once you've got that info from them, it really helps you not just become a better teacher, but also to sell a bit more effectively. So yeah, do not do free trial classes before you've got any kind of feedback or any kind of trial class. Don't even do paid trial classes before you've got this info. So this is the stuff that I personally ask, and I haven't given you a list of questions because I'm going to be honest, every single time I message with a new lead, my questions are a little bit different. That's because I'm responding to their answer and adjusting how I respond accordingly. Sometimes parents reach out straight away and immediately tell me half the answers, so I've not even had to ask the question. Sometimes they don't really explain it very clearly, so I had to ask them more questions to clarify or ask more details. But this is the rough information I'm trying to find out before the free trial class, before offering a trial class, whether it's free or paid. Firstly, the English level. We've mentioned this already, but we need to make sure like where they're starting from, roughly where I should be pitching my classes at. That's really important to know. I actually often ask, I think Alison was mentioning about curriculum. I actually ask the parents to send me a picture of what the child has been working on recently. Like, send me a picture of the kid's latest English homework. Send me a picture of their textbook page they've been working on today in class. I want to know roughly what they're learning in school. And if they've taken classes outside of school, same kind of thing. Tell me more about what they've been learning outside of school. And sometimes parents are like, oh yeah, the intermediate level. What does that mean? My concept of intermediate and their concept of intermediate might be very different. So that's why I want to see actual like examples. Okay, I want either a video of the kids speaking, perhaps if some parents like doing those sort of videos and clips and things like that, or a picture of their homework, picture of their textbook, something that shows me something the kid has produced themselves, showing where they're currently at in terms of their English. Linking into that, I'll ask them like what are they learning at school, what age are they, what grade level are they at, that kind of thing. I also want to know about their learning goals and what time frame might be associated with those goals. We mentioned already about like exam prep as one example. If you're teaching preparation for an exam, you need to know, has the student already registered for the exam and what date is it going to be? If they haven't registered yet, when do they want to take the exam? Is this a long-term goal? In 3 years' time, they want to study abroad, so they know that in 3 years' time they need to pass the IELTS exam. But right now, they're way, way, way behind on that. Nothing to worry about too soon. Or have they already registered? The exam is next week and they're panicking. Okay? So that very much affects how you're going to adjust your sort of approach. Current challenges. I think it was Gillian who said, what's the problem with their current teachers or like classes they're already having in school? Why are they looking for something that's different? What are they struggling with their current English learning? And what learning have they done previously, previous English learning, that kind of thing, and specifically what they're looking for in my classes. Okay, I offer quite a range of different kinds of classes. I have sort of general English classes, I have very specialist classes, and my debating classes are particularly popular. I also offer scientific English classes for students who are looking to study abroad at UK universities and want to study a science subject, so they want to know scientific and academic English. Very important to know what kind of classes they want. And usually parents have got a rough idea of what they're looking for. Sometimes they'll ask me for suggestions. They'll say, my child is like upper intermediate level. We want to kind of go beyond the standard core lessons they're doing in school, but I'm not really sure what exact classes they want because they need to focus more on speaking or they need to focus more on reading, but I don't know if debating is the right thing for them, or give me some suggestions. And in which case I can go back, give us some ideas and talk about what we could do in a trial to try it out with them. And the final question. Are you available for a trial class today? Who here waits for the parent to suggest a time for the trial class? Who waits for the parent to say when they want the trial class, or ask them, when are you around for a trial class, and leave it open? Be honest, who's done that? I've done that before. I used to always do that. I would say, oh yes, when's convenient for a trial class for you? Let me know. And then nothing happens. And I'm like, are you still interested in that trial class? And a week later, I'm like, hello, trial class. Uh, who's done that? Who's suggested, like asked the parent to give a suggestion? Teresa who's saying I do the same. I'm not sure that's which bit that was referring to, but awesome. Tanya was talking about after the informal chat, I direct students to a pre-quiz, which is fun. It helps assess and gauge placement. Yeah, if you're actually looking for a free trial class like placement test you can do in the trial class for your students, check out the link. There is a free one that's from Average Academy that we've made, designed to help you exactly with this. But yeah, it should be fun, but also assess their level. That's a really important thing to do. Okay, I feel like everyone's too embarrassed to admit that they've let the parents like schedule the trial class on their own terms. Okay, so the last question there, available for available for a free class today. This is a really important thing. Do not wait for the parent to schedule it in 3 months' time, okay? Because they're probably messaging with multiple other teachers at the same time, right? Depending on how they found you, but it's quite likely if they've been actively searching for a teacher, they found several different teachers out there and they've messaged all of them to get an idea, right? They've narrowed it down to 3 or maybe 5 teachers and they want to know which one's best. So if they narrowed it down to say 5 teachers, they're not going to want to sit through 5 trial classes because they can do 1 or 2, and then once they've found the first couple of trial classes, and they'll pick the teachers best out of those few and they'll forget the others. So you don't want to be one of the ones that got forgotten. So you want to be the very first trial class the kid takes. So yeah, are you available for a free trial class today? And if they say no, then I'm like, okay, maybe tomorrow. How about these times? And I keep pushing them. I want that trial class within the next 24 hours because timing is critical. As I say, they're going to be messaging other people. It's not about being pushy. You don't have to be like, oh, if you don't book a trial class in the next 24 hours, then I'm never going to teach you again. But just sort of gently encouraging them to book as soon as possible. And it also shows that you're enthusiastic and you're keen and you want to, get to know their child and help them out. You're not just forgetting about them. I'd be saying I do check my schedule though and not cancel my life to show up. That's a good point. You need to have a good work-life balance. Mandy's saying I absolutely ask parents when they are available. Yep, but first tell them when you are available. Tell them the first time that you are available for a class and ask them if it works for them. That would be my suggestion. Okay. So a few top tips that kind of wraps up this section here about what to do before the trial class. We've talked a lot about those questions. I know some people are going to be very tempted to make a list of those questions, translate them into their students' language to make it easy, and then put it on a questionnaire. I have mixed opinions on this. Very mixed opinions on this. And I know some teachers are like, oh yeah, you should do this, automate it, keep it simple, make it easy for you. If you send your parents a massive long questionnaire to fill out, they're going to look at this massive 10-page document, feel very daunted and overwhelmed by it all and think, I will do that later. And then later never happens. So personally, I much prefer to message directly with students or the parents. Mostly I'm teaching kids to teens, so it's the parents I'm messaging. Message personally with them, and then I can just ask one question at a time. And it means I can also ask follow-up questions. Like if they haven't quite given enough detail, they haven't explained something clearly, I can just ask them another question to get that more information out of them. It feels more of a friendly exchange of information, and it's not putting huge amounts of pressure on them with a massive document to fill out. Another issue with some of these questionnaires is if you put it in like a Word document and they open it on their phone, maybe they can't edit it. So they're going to have to wait until they're back on their computer. Or if it's a Google form or something and your student is in China, well, they can't open Google Forms because their Google is blocked in China. So there might be issues like that. So personally, I just message back and forth. That is my suggestion. It's worked well for me. And as I've already mentioned, speed is key. Parents will be messaging other teachers too. You want to be quick to respond. Anyone who reaches out interested in your classes, reply as quickly as possible. Any questions they ask, reply as quickly as possible. Get them onto that trial class as soon as you can. I know this sounds pushy. I don't want to be pushy. I mean, be friendly, but be responsive. If the parent is having to wait 24 hours for you to reply to one message, they're going to think, well, you're not that interested in supporting their child. And they're also going to be thinking that once you start teaching their child, you're going to be just as bad at replying to messages. And they don't want a teacher who is taking days to respond to everything all the time. It just gives a bad impression. So yeah, speed is key. Okay, so that brings us towards the end of today's session. I want to wrap things up a bit here and then remind you of a few key things before we finish. And I know there's some things in the chat. We're going to get to questions in the chat. Please pop more questions or suggestions or feedback, ideas, pop them in the chat. It's really great to see what everyone's thinking about, and I will answer any questions that are still left over at the end. So as a quick summary of the key things we've covered today. Firstly, do not directly promote free trials. You can do free trials if it's right for you and your business, but do not publicly advertise them. And do consider alternative trial class formats. We talked about group classes, we talked about discounted classes, live streams kind of classes, or other kinds of formats you could be doing instead that might be more effective or at least easier on you and allow you to reach a wider audience more efficiently. So consider alternative trial class formats, particularly as you start to scale up and your schedule is starting to get busy. Qualify leads first. By qualifying leads, we mean vetting them, asking those questions, making sure they are suitable for you. I didn't mention this earlier, but like half of the people who even get like quite far through the messaging with me, I still reject and don't offer a trial class to. And if I think about the people who reached out to me, I have over 100 unread messages at the moment. That's really bad, isn't it? I have over 100 unread messages right now in my Xiaohongshu for people who've reached out and they've said, I want free class. Teacher, do you do free trial classes? Teacher, do you teach Reach Higher Lesson 3? Like anything that to me throws up some kind of a red flag, like they're directly asking for free things all the time, or they're asking for a very specific curriculum that's telling me they're just hopping around looking for teachers to teach each class their child like separately for free. Any kind of red flag or someone who seems a bit, I just ignore them. So yeah, qualify your leads first. Make sure you're spending your time and effort and energy on people who are likely to convert. And finally, the idea that communication is key. Being quick, being speedy, being efficient, being friendly and responsive, and asking the right kind of questions, showing an interest in supporting their child and their child's learning, super, super important. And get that trial class booked as soon as possible when they first reached out to you. The shortest time I've had someone reach out to me and actually be sat physically in a trial class has been 15 minutes. Like they reached out to me, I've messaged back and forth, and I've said, "Are you available today?" And they're like, "Yes, we are." And I'm like, "Are you available now? Because right now I have time in my schedule." And they're like, "Yep, no problem. See you in 5 minutes." So yeah, communication really is key. Oh, okay, I know I talked a lot there. I wonder, I should sort of at some point analyze my like words per minute and then try and halve it. Anyway, hopefully some of this was helpful for you guys and give you some ideas of what to be thinking about before doing trial classes. And I'll talk a bit more about tomorrow's session. Make sure, sorry, not tomorrow, Wednesday session. Make sure you do tune into that. Let's have a quick look at what's going on in the comments. We've got Tutor Eva. Hello, Katie. Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. I think you have just tuned in. I didn't see any comments from you earlier. So if you've missed anything, don't worry. You can zip back. Like the replay is going to be available. You can catch up on anything you've missed. Don't worry. Melody's saying, I keep a notepad on my computer. I can copy and paste messages or questions into WeChat. Save some typing. Yeah, so if you've got kind of common questions you're asking, or like your first kind of reach out, so message to people, that kind of thing, save the messages at work. Keep an eye kind of track of what kind of messaging is working for you. And yeah, copying and pasting things does speed things up a little bit. Julian says, interesting to hear how different we do things. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is different. I think that's the thing. Like, Julian is an amazing coach for teachers. She's got an awesome YouTube thing going on right now, by the way. You should check it out if you're interested in finding students on YouTube. And Julian's way of doing things is slightly different to my way of doing things, slightly different to other teachers' way of doing things. Everyone does things in the way that works for them. But I hope this gives you an idea of what works for me and some other approaches that you might want to consider. So yeah, everyone's slightly different in the way that we do things. It's great seeing like the messages in the chat as well as to what's worked for other people too. Okay, Abby's saying, amazing webinar, thank you. And Alison's saying, I think your tips say, are you available now is a fantastic sales tip. I never thought about that before. Well, I'm glad that helped. Like to me, I always thought that was kind of almost an obvious thing to do because I'm one of these kind of disorganized people. I'm going to be honest with myself. If I don't ask them, are you available now? I'll forget. And then 3 days later will come around and I'll be, oh, I forgot to reply to that parent who was interested. And by that point, they've gone, you know? So yeah, I get on it quick. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad this helped. Okay, I know there's some more questions in the chat. I'm going to get to those in a moment. So yeah, questions, pop them in the chat. While you are asking your questions, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder of, as I said, this is not a sales pitch because it's all free. But anyway, quick reminder of the free Trial Class Bootcamp. This was session number 1, which was about finding the right students and sort of vetting those students who are reaching out to make sure you're spending your time, your effort, your energy on the right kind of leads. On Wednesday, same time, same place. On Wednesday, we're going to be doing trial classes that sell. So what you're going to actually do in the trial class itself to make sure that it converts. It's not just good teaching strategies. I know all of you out there are incredible and amazing teachers, but even the best teaching you can possibly do will not necessarily guarantee that a trial class is going to convert. So what can you do in the trial class itself that is actual sales stuff that is going to sell? That's going to be session 2, which is on Wednesday. And session 3, which is on Friday, again, same time, same place on Friday, is all in the follow-up. So after the trial class, what are you going to send to the parents? What kind of messages are you going to ask? How are you going to follow up? What are you going to do? They just ghost you and disappear. How are you going to kind of encourage them to finally make that purchase? So yeah, It's best to tune into these things live because then you can ask questions. But if you can't join us live, no worries. The replays will be available. It's the same link because it's all on YouTube. So the same link works for the replay as for the live. But regardless, if you want email notifications of that and a whole bunch of freebies and access to the replays, the link is in the description to get all of this for free. Yay! And a reminder as well of those amazing freebies, all about the trial classes, everything you need to teach successful trial classes with zero planning or preparation whatsoever. You're going to have a free placement test to do at the start of your trial class, free lesson slides for 5 lessons worth of free trial lesson materials for you to use, automated certificates at the end of those lessons, and follow-up feedback forms as well. That's all available for free. Just register, link is in the description, and you'll get all of that stuff. As I said, no big upsell, no VIP payment loads of money kind of stuff, just all this awesome free stuff for you guys. And the only kind of tiny upsell is if you do love all of these free teaching materials, you can buy even more teaching materials from me with the ABH Academy curriculum. More about that if you register and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm not going to be trying to push a big VIP upsell here. I'm just giving you guys loads of amazing free stuff and support to help you teach the best trial classes you can. Because I know there's such a big challenge for a lot of teachers, and you're putting so much work into marketing, and it's just painful when you then teach a trial class and then students just vanish. So hopefully this is going to help you with that. Okay, any questions? Let's have a look at the chat. What's been going on here? Lots of questions, great. Ivy's asking, how do you simplify communication or messages? I tend to overwhelm the parent by wanting to make sure they get all the info, like my trial class or options. No way I could reply shortly. That I think is a big challenge. And for me personally, I just send one sentence at a time. My way of kind of preventing that, overwhelming them, is just one short question. And if I know it's going to require a long response, I'm going to simplify it even further, make the questions as short and as simple as possible. I'd rather send 10 messages back and forth that are short, quick answer messages, rather than a whole list of questions and then the parent gets a bit nervous and panicky and they have to write a whole essay in response. So that's how I do things, one really short thing at a time. When it comes to information on class prices, that kind of thing, I usually wait for the parent to ask those sort of questions. Actually, I don't sort of directly promote my classes that much. When it gets to the point of actually organising the trial class itself, I would say I have the trial class is this price, all of the trial class is free, but after that, my classes are this price as standard, but I do have some deals available if you purchase packages of classes, just to let you know, to be honest, upfront before the trial class. So I'm not going to give them a huge detailed breakdown of every possible package or subscription they could sign up to with me for my classes, because that could be a bit overwhelming. Instead, I say to them, this is my kind of approximate price. I will send you a plan afterwards of what I recommend, because it might be that they only want a few classes, but it might be that they want years worth of classes, right? So that's going to adjust my pricing strategy anyway. So yeah, sorry, I'm not sure that really answers it. Is that I just don't overwhelm them too much. That's my main thing. Keep it simple. Alice is just saying, I think your tips say you're available. Oh yeah, I said this one already. Awesome. Glad that helped. Melody's saying, students have dropped drastically. I follow the suggestions people you interviewed made, gift certificates, group classes, channel content. I'm still struggling. I think the marketing can be a real challenge. And I kind of want to separate a little bit sales versus marketing. So what we're talking about today, the trial class, this whole bootcamp really is more on the sales side. Marketing is more about how you're finding those students and advertising your classes in the first place. I think it can be a real big challenge to bring in those leads consistently. I would also say this time of year can be quite mixed. So depending on what your kind of niche is, who your target student is, over the summer holidays, a lot of kids and their parents were off on holiday, right? So they weren't really thinking about classes. So over sort of July, August, even spilling a bit into September, people are still in that holiday mode. So if your enrollments were dipping over the summer, I really wouldn't be concerned about that. That's very normal. What you can do instead is teach different kinds of classes in the summer, more extracurricular type stuff, more fun things, and different approaches to stuff. I did a webinar on that about 6 months ago, by the way. Feel free to have a look at the replay if you're interested. But yeah, could just be a seasonal thing. Or it could also be that there's a lot of changes in the economy going on. It depends a bit on where your students are coming from. You mentioned Xiaohongshu, so I'm guessing China. The economy is up and down a lot, okay? Everywhere in the world, all of the time. But I think right now it can be quite tough for a lot of parents in terms of being able to afford classes. So that could also be having an impact as well. So yeah, try not to beat yourself up too much if you're struggling to kind of get those leads and get those students reaching out. But keep at it. I'm sure you'll be successful, and I'm going to give lots of free advice and support as much as I can to help teachers in terms of the marketing and finding students and converting those students as well. But yeah, this bootcamp is more focused on the once you've got that lead, how to make sure they buy, because we don't want to be losing those valuable leads. But yeah, I do hope you find some of the other webinars and things I've done helpful on that. But yeah, sorry, I can't give too many suggestions in much detail, but keep at it and try out different things. Look at your data and look at where you're getting the most leads and success with. Think about trying other things as well. Like if Xiaohongshu isn't working for you, where else could you look for students? Okay, have a look on Facebook. Look for students locally. Look for students in other markets. Think about YouTube. I mentioned Gillian earlier. Gillian's doing a great thing about YouTube. Check out her channel. She's commenting. Go follow her. And check out other resources and suggestions as well, and see if other things might work depending on who you're trying to reach. Alison saying, I also agree that automated responses tend to turn me off when I'm the recipient. Yeah, I feel like if you get sent like a kind of very generic list of questions or it's a general questionnaire, I also find it kind of like, this person doesn't really care about me. They're not genuinely interested. They're obviously someone who's got too many people reaching out all the time. They've had to automate stuff. And therefore it feels a bit impersonal. Which then goes back to what we're saying about the problems with those companies. The companies are only getting like 12% conversion rates. Like I talk with Powerfish, right? That's terrible. We don't want that. That's partly because of that impersonal kind of vibe. You can say, Katie's amazing, you guys. Thank you, Gillian. Really appreciate your support. And we're saying, yeah, I have to say I've never offered a class the same day. Yeah, that's what I do now. I think this past 2 weeks, I've taught 6 trial classes. All of them signed up. Fantastic. And all but maybe 2 of them, so 4 of them were on the same day. The other ones, they weren't available the same day, so it was like the day later or something like that. But yeah, almost always now, my classes, trial class, will be the same day, as much as I can push that, because it really, really helps. She's saying, is there a sign up link? I think it should be in the description. If it's not in the description, let me just put it in. If you just Google Abridge Academy, you can register. Let me just open this and put the link in the chat as well in case anyone's missed it. Oops, I should have been paying attention to that before setting this up, but it should be in the description. But yeah, if you'd like to register for all this free stuff and for reminders whenever we go live, and for all the replays and everything, the link is in the description, abridgeacademy.com/free trial class bootcamp. Or if you just Google Abridge Academy trial class or something like that, it should come up. But yeah, I put the link in the chat as well. Hopefully that's come through. I think Abridge is well worth it. Thank you, Alison. Really appreciate that. Great to hear. Lisa saying, love, thanks. See you on Wednesday. Awesome. See you Wednesday. Okay. Did you have any ideas on social media posts for the free trials or placements? My main suggestion is I don't do it. I'm not sure that's quite the answer you're looking for. I do not make posts advertising free trial classes or placement tests or things like that. You can do if you want to advertise some kind of free lead magnet. But when I say lead magnet, I wouldn't say a trial class is a good lead magnet. So for example, let's imagine you're advertising on something like Facebook where you can put links in the descriptions of your posts, and you've got an email list you're building. So you might create like a free ebook with top tips on how to, you're all reading focused, right? So how to help your child read, right? Or my top 10 books for elementary school kids learning to read. Something like that. You made a little free PDF resource. That could be a great lead magnet, we call it, like a freebie that you can give out in return for people's contact details. So let's say you put a post on Facebook and you can talk about this freebie and you can say, these are my top 10 books. These are my top 3. And if you want the rest of them, you need to check out the link in the description to sign up to get my full list. Right, you can do that kind of a post. And then the link is there for them to click through and get that full list. And you've got them on your email list, then you can start to nurture that lead a bit more. If you're using like Chinese social media, it would be something like Xiaohongshu to WeChat rather than Facebook to email list, but whatever, some kind of larger social media platform to more private messaging or email type platform in return for some kind of freebie. But that freebie that you're advertising should be something that can be kind of really widely and easily distributed to lots of people, because you're just getting contact details at that stage. So on social media, I don't personally recommend directly promoting free classes or placement tests or classes really at all. I very rarely would put up a class. It depends where you're advertising and how you're doing it, but I'd very rarely recommend putting up a direct advert about your classes. Instead, it's more about creating valuable, educational, informative content, and then that's going to attract people to sign up to your email list or attract people to add you on WeChat or however it is that you want them to connect with you more directly. And that's when you start to then promote your classes, if that makes sense. So that's my suggestion on that. Julie's saying, great training. I hope everyone didn't show watch the replay. Thank you. I'm glad you found this interesting, and I really appreciate your support and tuning in today, Gillian. Awesome. Yes, the replays will be available. There's no time limit on the replays. You can watch the replays whenever you wish. If you'd like to come back as well, you're more than welcome. Andy's saying, do you try and do the placement test, then the level trial in the same class? How long are your typical trial classes? Yes. So if you're using the Abridge Academy resources, the placement test is intended to be about 10 minutes. I've actually recorded a whole bunch of videos on the placement test and the trial classes, and some of them are already available on the Abridge Academy YouTube channel. Some of them will be going up very soon once I finish video editing. But I can do it with 10 minutes trial, 15 minutes, 10 minutes placement test, 15 minutes trial. That's how I try to do my trial classes. And that's what the Abridge Academy resources are intended to be. Obviously, if you're using different resources, or depending on how you normally do your normal classes, it might be you normally teach hour-long classes, in which case the trial class might be a bit longer anyways. But that's what I personally do. So the placement test, the idea is you don't necessarily have to go through all of the questions. You just keep going until the kid's starting to make more mistakes. And if you know they're more advanced, you jump ahead to a later starting point in the test anyway. There's some advice on that on the placement test itself. And I've done a detailed video, which is available on the Abridge Academy YouTube channel, talking about the placement test. That takes 10 minutes. Ideally, I've had one kid who managed to go through like a whole bunch of questions in literally 4 minutes, which was just crazy. But they were like right at the upper end of the test. But yeah, so then the trial classes, and the trial classes are also designed to be very flexible in terms of timings. So each trial class, we'll talk more about this in Wednesday's session, but the trial classes, I would always recommend having one really, really, really focused learning objective that you want the student to come away knowing they've learned something new. And with those trial class materials with Abridge Academy, that learning objective, that key thing they're going to learn, they get to straight away. So if you don't have time to do all of the consolidation kind of activities or the extension type stuff, you can just jump to the ends much more quickly. So you can shorten the trial class to be even like 10 minutes worth of content if you haven't got allowed enough time or your placement test overran a bit. But yeah, it takes practice. But yeah, my trial classes are 25 minutes. I would say I allow a bit longer though for the immediate follow-up. We'll talk more on Friday about what to do in terms of following up after the trial class. When I schedule the trial class for the parent, I make sure I also allow an extra half an hour after the trial class for me to either overrun if I really have to, but also for me to do the feedback stuff, this feedback template right here, and follow-up messaging with the parent as soon as possible. Again, more on that on Friday. But if you can, I would recommend allowing that extra time. So we talked about the importance of being quick and responsive. That can really help with that. I have had it where I've not been able to because I've got another class immediate afterwards, and that's fine. But yeah, try and keep on top of the timing, because that's another thing that parents want. So sometimes people say, oh, I think I should give them more time, a longer trial class, so they can experience my teaching more. But actually, no, the parents want to know that you can be like teach your classes within 25 minutes. They don't want classes to overrun. If they've got other things coming up, it's annoying for them if you overrun just as much as it's annoying for you. I just think great idea to give approximate price and then make a suggestion later and share the details. Exactly, yeah. And I say to them, it depends on how many classes you're booking. So I can't give super detail, but this is a rough idea, just so they know my rough price range. Because what I don't want to happen is then to them turn around. I know Julie mentioned in her live earlier today. You don't want the parent to then turn around and be like, "Oh, I only want to pay $5," because I'm sorry, there's no way I can't do it. Even if I was to offer like a group program or something to add them into, no way can I do a class for $5. So if they don't, they need to have a rough idea of what kind of pricing that I'm going to be charging, just to make sure it is roughly within what they're looking for. But yeah, Julian's saying this week is a good week to do a push. It's National Week. Yeah, we mentioned before, like some people are teaching Chinese students in China. It's National Week this week. Perfect timing for scheduling trial classes and things like that, because the kids are all on holiday. A lot of them are actually on holiday traveling, so it can be a bit difficult in terms of your regular students, but that might mean you've now got more gaps in your schedule that have opened up to then squeeze in some last minute bonus trial classes. So yeah, this is a good time if you're teaching Chinese students for sure. Ooh, sorry, lots of questions here. I'm going to try and get through them relatively quickly. But Emma's saying, have people used and had success on Instagram? Personally, no, but I'm sure teachers have. I've seen teachers on Instagram. I bought classes myself for Chinese and Japanese classes for myself from teachers that I've seen on Instagram. So it's worked on me from the student buying classes perspective, but I've not tried it myself in terms of advertising to find my own students. But it's a place that exists. And depending on who your target audience is, who your target market is, look into the demographic information about Instagram and who you can reach on Instagram, that kind of thing, and if it suits your style of content that you want to create. But yeah, it's worth looking into. Oh yeah, by the way, I think I'll put the link in the description, but do check out the link in the description to register for all these amazing free things that are on the screen, and of course reminders of the next 2 bootcamp sessions to make sure you don't miss those. I'm saying thank you Tanya, glad that was helpful. Melodies talking about students from 6 to 12 teach a range of curriculum with grammar and phonics. Fantastic. Actually saying excellent. Thank you everyone. Thank you for all of this wonderful feedback. I'm really glad to hear this has been helpful for you all. Really appreciate it. Ooh. Okay, Katie's saying, okay, this is coming back to what I was talking about earlier about advertising free classes. On WeChat moments for warm leads, do they know you're offering placement tests or trials? I have occasionally. So, for example, I said I taught 6 trials in the last 2 weeks. So I knew I had time in my schedule. I was like, I want to get a load more students joining right now. So I put up thing on my WeChat. I didn't put it on Xiaohongshu. I put it on my WeChat, which is only for sort of warm leads. People have already reached out to me, been messaging me. I put a note up there saying, I've got trial classes coming up, like available. This is what I'm offering. Send me a message you're interested. So I do advertise it to warm leads. It's a bit like if you've got an email list, you could email your email list and say, I'm doing trial classes. And if you know you want to do a push to get more students, email your email list and say, I'm offering free trials this week if you wanted to do free trials, or I'm offering a discounted trial. This is how you sign up. Or reach out to me, just reply to the message if you're interested, that kind of thing. So yeah, WeChat I consider in the same category as like email marketing. It's like that slightly closer nurturing your leads sort of marketing stage. So yeah, that's the point where you can start to do more direct advertising there. But I wouldn't put it on like viral social media platforms going more public, because that's when you start reaching people just wanting free stuff. Sandra's saying, looking forward to Wednesday and Friday sessions too. Thank you. Glad this was helpful. Fantastic. Okay, saying, I have parents asking for a flyer or image to share with their friends. Great. I hope that helps in terms of referring, like bringing new students to you. Referrals is a really great way to attract new leads. Like word of mouth, one of the most powerful strategies you get for bringing in new students. Tanya's saying, talking about the amazing Abridge Academy curriculum. Thank you. I love this wonderful words. Amazing. I appreciate it. Did you create the lessons on Canva? No, I didn't. Can you recommend a good creation platform for making lessons interactive? So the Abridge Academy lessons are built in Genially, which is like an interactive slide software. For all of the interactivity, it's a bit complicated. Depends on, I don't know, your design skills, your tech skills, how much time and effort you want to put into it. On average, every Abridge Academy lesson takes about 10 hours to create, even just for a half-hour lesson. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into creating all that interactivity. And making sure the lessons are perfect. But yeah, check it out. It's good. Or you can just sign up for Abridge Academy, which has got all these pre-made interactive lessons already for you. Yeah, Alison saying I think she uses Genially. Yeah, Genially. There's a free version. The free version of Genially is pretty good from what I remember. I think there's a storage limit on it, like quite a small storage limit. And I think they put their logo on stuff. Like if you want it branded with your own logo and whatever, then but there's some restrictions on the free version. But if you're just trying things out and just want to create a few lessons for your students, then yeah. That's a good point about this week. Parents have got school off to do trials during the day. Exactly. Like normally with students, and they're only taking classes after school hours, but suddenly if it's the school holidays, then they've got, school vacation for you Americans. School vacation. You say that? School holidays or school vacation? But we have a break. Anyway, if they're on break, then yeah, they can take classes during the day, which is when they don't have other things scheduled, and it's perfect time for you to offer those trials. Fantastic. Lots of thank yous. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate that. Fantastic. Thank you. Great. Gillian's saying, Brenda's got something. Yeah, I think she's got some training on her YouTube or something about making lessons on Genie, but very time consuming, not worth the time for most teachers. I think it's great if you're running a company like Abridge Academy, right? Because that's how we make our lessons super interactive. I don't know many teachers who are making lessons on Genie for their own individual students, unless perhaps you're like niche down enough that you know you're going to reuse the lesson a lot for multiple students. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's worth checking out. I do really love it as a system. Holiday for the UK, vacation for the US. Yeah, I thought so. Vacation, right? Sorry, I'm British, as you can probably tell. Yeah, our school holidays in the UK, we've got October half terms, where the next one that's coming up in a few weeks. I don't know what you have in the US. I think you don't get time off until like Thanksgiving. Do you get a break for Thanksgiving or something? I don't really know how holidays work in other countries. But yeah, depending on which markets you're targeting, research the school holiday periods, because there's a great time to be offering trial classes. All things that we mentioned, having like an event, a group event, that's a great way of doing a trial class. Those also work very well during the school holidays or vacations, whatever you want to call them, for sure. Okay, right, I think I'm going to wrap things up here. So hold your questions till next time. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. As I said, do check out the link in the description to make sure you get email reminders for all of the amazing stuff that I've mentioned today. The next 2 sessions, Wednesday, Friday, same time, same place, and you'll get email reminders if you've registered for those. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope you found this helpful. And don't forget to like, subscribe, all that other stuff as well. Really helps this video reach more amazing teachers like you. And I will see you again on Wednesday. So thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.